Welcome back everyone, Mr. Allen here. I'm just going to go through a couple quick examples here of using the cosine law for two different types of questions. Remember, these videos are not meant to be lessons. They are not meant to replace any of the background understanding that you might have. They're just examples of how to use the cosine law in this case for the two types of questions that we run into. So the first type of question we will see here is the situation where I have exactly a side, an angle, and a side, and no right angle. I've already determined that I don't have a right angle, so I can't use sine, cos, or tan. If I try to use the sine law here, it turns out that I have no pairing of side and associated angle, and so my only option is to use this. And again, this is the situation where I have exactly a side, an angle, and a side. So the two sides and the angle that holds them together. And the only way I can use the cosine law, so here it is here. Cosine law is used when we have exactly side, angle, side, two sides and the angle holding them together, and it's used specifically to find the third side, regardless of what we're being asked. So if the question asked us to find this missing angle, we would still have to use the cosine law, we'd still have to find this missing side, and then after we found that missing side, we'd use the sine law to continue the question and find the actual angle that we're wanting. So in this case, the cosine law is in this form. The angle I'm given is this angle here, and of course the side across from it is the side that will have the same name. So side C is opposite angle C. I just declare basically that because this is the angle I'm using, this is the side that I'm going to consider to be the C. Regardless of where it is in the question, I will always make the angle that I'm using C for the sake of using this. Sometimes you'll see the equation written as a squared equals, and sort of exactly the same thing, but with the b's and c's or the a's and b's mixed up. I just prefer to keep it in the one form. C is always the side that I'm looking for. It's always the angle I know. And then we're putting in our values. A and B are the other two sides. The order does not matter. 12 and 16 minus 2 times 12 times 16 times cosine of 60. And we will do this all in the calculator in one step. 12 to the exponent 2 plus 16 to the exponent 2 minus 2 times 12 times 16 times cosine of 60 equals, and we should get the number 208. That is the value of c squared, and c then is the square root of 208, which is approximately 14.4. The second type of question we use the cosine law for is when we have exactly the three sides and no angles. And if we go through the process, we can recognize there is no hypotenuse because there's no right angle, so sine, cos, and tan are no longer an option for us. If we tried to use either version of the sine law, we would recognize I have this side and I'm missing the angle across from it. And then the same thing for the other two side and angle combinations, so I cannot line those up. Initially, the cosine law looks like this, and so if we try to solve it, plug in the 14.4, which is side C because it's across from the angle that we're working with. Plug in the 12, the 16. What we end up with is an equation that's quite complex and needs to be rearranged. So instead of doing that, I'm going to start by rearranging it one time so we can use it in the future. Subtract the a squared, subtract the b squared, divide through by the negative 2ab, and this now is the cosine law rearranged to allow us to work with the missing angles instead. And so now values go in the same locations. 14.4 is my C, 12 and 16 are my A's and B's, and I get down to cosine of C, work out this section here, and I get 0.5, just slightly above 0.5. To complete this calculation in one step, if you want to try it, the steps are there. Calculate the numerator and hit equals. So you've got the numerator, a single value, divide by the negative 2, divide by the 12, divide by the 16, and then do the inverse cos of the answer from above. If you want to work it out in two steps, work out the numerator, write it down, work out the denominator, write it down, then divide through, and then do your inverse cos to get the angle, which is obviously very close to 60 degrees because it is the same question as on the previous one.